It's just after 5 in the morning and I can't sleep because I'm actually very excited because today we're going on a road trip and after a massive cup of coffee, we're going to let the clock tick by for a couple of hours and then meet up with some very familiar faces and we're going to go and have some fun at Chillcon in Derby. That's right, Chillcon is in the bag. We're all home and rested, and the time has finally come for me to reflect on the event and tell you all about it. But I'd be willing to bet the first question you have probably got is, what the hell's a Chillcon? And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that was followed by why should I even care? Well, the simple answer is that more conventions means more wargaming for us to enjoy. And in the world of micro conventions, I think Chillcon might just be a pretty shining example. But you know what? I don't just want to leave you sat here staring at my face while I regale you with tales of the convention, so let's go back in time and let's start on the day of the morning of the convention and I'll take you through it from there. Okay, I'm more awake now and we're on the way, which is great. But England got to England, so yeah, good weather was probably a bit too much to expect. But fun commences from here. See you soon. Just wait here for him. Get in the car, loser. We're going nerding. We have arrived. It is raining. So the first thing that I really need to talk to you about is just how much there was to do for such a small con. There were 3 halls, 2 were sports hall sized, with the third being a cafeteria that had an area set aside in it for meet and greets and things like that. Although we didn't get shots, the cafeteria also had board games there for people to enjoy, so it was actually one of the busier parts of the convention. In both halls A and B, there were a ton of demo games to play, including things like Napoleonics, Battletech, even the amazing Silver Bayonet, which is kind of a mix of Napoleonics and Lovecraftian horror. In the second hall, there was also a bring and buy sale, to which we offloaded some Tyranids that were surplus to requirements. There were also a lot of traders for a con of this size. The lovely guys from War on Terror, or AWA, were there, and were also an event sponsor. They had a bunch of new minis for their game and were super excited to show it off. Also, much to my surprise, they had a couple of board games with them that they'd published previously, both of which actually looked really fun. Warlord Games were present and they had their amazing African desert table for bolt action and some really lovely painted models to go with it. We got to take an early look at their new crunchy tank battler Achtung Panzer, which we're actually really excited for. In Hall B, we found Void Scar and their awesome game From Ashes. This is a 15mm heroic scale wargame with minis that really push the boundaries of detail at that scale. We picked up a few to have a little play with and do some painting, so let us know in the comments if you want to see more about From Ashes, a sci-fi 15mm heroic scale wargame. As we were touring Hall B, we also very nearly missed these guys, Nervosa Games, a team of just 2 people who have created and published a game about primitive tribal combat. Such an interesting and totally different subject for a minis game that we actually went back without the camera for a chat afterwards. I'd really love it if we could get some more eyes on these guys on Instagram, because although we kind of nearly missed them at the con, their game looks super interesting and is really different. So give them a follow over there maybe. There were plenty more traders than just these mentions though, and not just minis. There were food vendors aplenty, including this incredible burger stand who saw my press pass and insisted that I take a picture with them. Now, I'm not sure if they're aware that tiny YouTube channels still count as press, but their food was absolutely first class and they were lovely, so happy to have taken that photo with them anyway. There was also a decent little presence for trading card games, with both these guys, Magic Geek, and another stall having a fair bit of stock of things like Lorcana, Magic, Pokemon, the usual. All in all, the traders and the demo games were really, really fun. And surprisingly, we actually managed to discover some stuff that we've never seen before and we're really keen to feature on the channel. So watch this space because there's going to be some new spotlight videos coming up. Of course, if you want to catch those, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the channel down below. And while you're down there, why not give this video a like as well so that YouTube shows it to more people and then they find out about the amazing Chillcon. That seems like a win-win for everyone. But I have to be honest, the main thing that actually drew me to Chillcon, the main reason I really wanted to go, was the painting competition. And it turns out there were actually two. Apprentice Leo decided to try his hand at this 20-minute speed painting competition, which actually looked like really awesome fun. Entrants received a grey primed Space Marine and had to just go to town making the best mini possible in just 20 minutes. Now, we love a speed paint on this channel, but 20 minutes is no time at all. So everyone that braved this challenge deserves props just for giving it a go. That's a really short amount of time. For me, however, the meat of this show was in the main painting competition, and I'd actually taken the time to prepare 3 entries for the occasion. This Judge Dredd bust for the open category, this Skaven Deathmaster for the fantasy category, and the one I have to admit that I kind of had my hopes in was my Infinity Lizard tag for the sci-fi category. Now, after being asked to judge a painting competition last year, and then having some pretty reasonable success in the mini painting open from Cult of Paint, I was now ready to enter my first proper in-person painting competition with some really respected and renowned painters to compete against. As we put down my entries and filled in the forms, we spotted entries from Suggs over at Rogue Hobbies, Peachy of Peachy Tips fame, Dave from MS Paints, Pete the Wargamer, James from Rising 8 Minis, as well as a whole host of pieces that we'd seen on Instagram. And honestly, it was at this point I started to feel nervous because, well, I've painted minis for over 30 years, but I've only really had an interest in competition for the last 6 months, maybe. It's never really been a thing that I've thought about before. So to see such big names putting down miniatures that were going to compete against mine was a bit, As the competition display area started to fill up with minis, so too did it fill up with people just having a really great time looking at all the entries. And it kind of was at that point that I realised that that's what it's all about. Even if my entries didn't place, people were coming together in one spot to just really enjoy miniature painting. And that was the value of going to enter an in-person competition. Just seeing people pointing at the entries and really loving what they saw. That amassing of so much talent and the output of that talent all in one place, that was truly a priceless thing, and that's pretty rad. So yeah, I definitely still wanted to do well, but I'd managed to calm my nerves a little bit, and I was pretty happy to just see how things went. So it was at this point that I then got some time to go mingle with friends and catch up with folks. I hadn't seen Peachy since last year's UKGE, so it was wonderful to catch up with him. And Annie from Bad Squiddo Games is always an absolute highlight of any event. Just love being around her. I also got to talk some shop with both Annie and Pete the Wargamer while we were stood at the painting competition area, as well as have a little chuckle with Dave from MS Paints, who I've never actually met in person before, and have a sit down and a chill with Pete from Transatlantis Games, which again is always a highlight. Pete's just always someone you can find at a convention and just step aside and have a chill time with. I also finally got to meet Suggs in person, which was great because I've been supporting her on Patreon pretty much since she started her channel, but I've never actually managed to meet her in person, so it was pretty lovely. I did get a pic of that, but it does kind of contain a spoiler, so I've got to save it for a little bit later in this video. But after all the hours of catching up and hanging out and getting food and bobbing around the place having a good time, we were getting pretty tired and weary at this point, but we started to notice that the competition area was filling up again. The judges were doing a judge. It was time to find out how we'd done. Much to my surprise, the nerves didn't come back at this point. I was just happy that we were about to celebrate some great painting. And at this point, we let them do their thing and then descended on the display to find out who had picked up finalist pins. There were so many amazing and deserving entries across all the categories. The open category was public votes, there was no finalist pin there, meaning we had no idea how Dread had done. However, in the other categories we entered, fantasy and sci-fi, I was blown away to see a pin leaning against both of our entries. The other finalists in all categories were so deserving too. Sug's box art Rascal Town Goblin was sure to be stiff competition for my Skaven in the fantasy category, and Peachy's gorgeous sharp display was up against this excellent redcoat in the historical category. Pete the Wargamer's Lehman Russ had a pin, and there were some other really amazing vehicles that had also pinned. And the Busts collection was pretty stiff in competition too, with some incredible entries that I hadn't even spotted on my initial look over everything. However, eventually it was time to announce winners, and with 2 pins to my name, I actually started to believe I had a chance. Historical was close with Peachy's amazing sharp minis, but Jack's mini painting on Instagram tore the category up with his redcoat bagging a trophy. The open category was won by Oliver Beetleston with his gorgeous little mushroom diorama piece. The painting on this was so clean, just so clean. Sadly, we missed grabbing footage of him collecting his trophy, but vehicle was indeed nabbed by Pete the Wargamer with his insane Lehman Russ. So much lovely rust all over this thing. Now, my moment in the sun came when the sci-fi category was announced. As you can imagine, it was a busy category, so I felt a little unsure, but the lizard was also the model I'd really tried hard on, and I was absolutely bowled over when it got the trophy for best sci-fi. And well, if my other hopeful entry was going to lose to anyone, then I'm so glad it was Suggs with the Rascal Town box art for her latest Goblin Mini. I said there was a pick I was saving due to spoilers, and here it is. I have no idea why my phone camera hated Louise's trophy, but look how happy we are. Finally, there was the Best in Show award, which was taken down by House of Dasa. But sadly, despite reaching out to them, we haven't been able to figure out which piece was their winner. However, they did take home this insane set of AK paints, which I'm pretty sure they must be happy with. Speaking of swag, the prizes were so generous. I got 2 boxes of Wargames Atlantic minis, a whole ass Infinity starter set, some 2 Thin Coats paints, a pack of dice, and apparently there's a voucher of some kind on the way too. All in all, it was an exhausting day, but a great one. We'd made some new friends, we'd caught up with some old ones, and again, at this point in the video, shout out to Rising 8 Minis. He's a wonderful old friend of mine. I've been friends with him since pretty much he started his YouTube channel, and he came back with us for dinner afterwards, which was really lovely because we got to sit and just chat, sat in my front room, had a cup of tea, and it was just really, really lovely to be able to see him again. So, hi James, thanks, it was great to see you, bud. But yeah, anyway, it was well worth a sweaty day in a school gym. Pretty great, very happy. But alas, despite that, it was finally time to travel home at the end of the day. Mercifully, the rain had cleared up a bit though, and the car journey was just full of happy conversations from nerds feeling very satisfied with their day. Special shout out should go to Jenny as well, who isn't massively into all of this, but not only came and did a bunch of filming for me, but also drove to and from. So as usual, Jenny, you are amazing. Thank you. So at the start of this video, I asked you why you should care about a little MicroCon like Chillcon. And well, I hope that this video itself has already provided the answer. I hope that I don't need to say it explicitly, but if I do, well, you're just never going to find a more relaxed, inclusive atmosphere than these small conventions. If you typically get really nervous at big public events like this, these MicroCons are a great way to just break yourself into how it feels to be at a con. They're just a shrunken down version of the bigger thing. So you get a lot of the same enjoyment, just on a smaller scale. And of course, the best part, especially for someone like me, is you get to discover just a whole bunch of stuff that you probably wouldn't see at a big con, either because it's too expensive for tiny companies to exhibit there, or because it's really easy for them to get lost in the shuffle alongside all the giants. So, if you have a MicroCon near you, or if you want to come to Chillcon, I would say give it a go. You won't regret it. Now, I want to take a second just to thank the organisers of Chillcon as well, because it was a really well put on event, and as press we were really well looked after. We got a lovely little goodie bag, and the press passes were there immediately for us. There was no messing around waiting for them. It was really straightforward and really easy, and we were super happy with it all. What I am going to do is link as many of the Instagram accounts for people that won awards or people that I've mentioned in this video as possible down below. If I can find their Instagrams, I'll link them. What I'm also going to do is link Chillcon on Instagram as well, because they're pretty active on Instagram, and I would love to see them get some more followers on there and get some more attendees to the convention next year. So that's your call to action for the video, and let's try and do that. Let's try and boost Chillcon a little bit, because they certainly do deserve it. When it comes to final thoughts, I think the video is a pretty good delivery of my final thoughts. I had a wonderful time. I really, really loved it. And I will definitely be back next year. Wouldn't miss it for the world. So thanks, Chillcon, and thanks everyone for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one, and bye for now.